Welcome to my daily review. Today is Thursday, June 12th, and tomorrow is Friday the 13th. For those who are superstitious, just know in advance. Hopefully, a black cat does not cross your path. But anyway, I don't think Friday the 13th is going to have any bearing on my success or failure in the stock market. I think the Nasdaq has a greater impact. And the Nasdaq was up today 46 points or 0.24%. The volume was massive, and it's just these four or five or six penny stocks that I don't know who's doing this, but they're trading the hell out of these things, and it's throwing the volume off, but it's not dollar volume. It's just it's a bunch of volume and like I said, penny stock. So it doesn't take much to move those things. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's why I discount volume. It doesn't make a big deal unless it's in an individual stock, where you see a stock roaring on volume, gapping higher with volume after an earnings report. That's a little different because institutions are piling in. But when you see this crap, it's just penny stocks that are being traded. All right. Now that I've got that out of the way, off my chest, I've just got to point out that the Nasdaq's just grinding higher. Yeah, I know a quarter percent. It's not a big deal. 46 points, not a big deal. But it's 9.3% above the 50. 2.7% above the 21. And it's just a tick above the five, and it's just riding the five here. Now, the closer we get to this 20,204. I think the greater chance we have to have some profit taking and a little bit of a pullback. I know the market seems a little tired, and some of the leaders have been cracking, but other leaders are filling the void. So you lose some and then you get some. You just got to be aware of that. But the Nasdaq is just doing exactly what we would want it to do, and it's looking fine. And like I said, leaders are kind of rotating in and out. If you look at that every morning I post those 22 to 26, 27 leading stocks, and those are performing well. Some have fallen off, like, Dutch Bros and I think, what are they? Oh, App Lovin', and yeah, a couple of them have fallen off, but, then others take their spot. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out on the Nasdaq, the high volume, not a big deal, but just grinding higher. Same with the S&P 500 index now, 23-point move today, or 0.38%, so a little better than the Nasdaq today. The volume was 11% below because they don't have all those damn penny stocks in there. So below average volume, but still above that 6,000 level, which we like. It closed at 6,045. So good day overall on the indexes. I don't think the IWM fared as well today. No, no, that one hit the 200 and got the Matambo treatment. No, no, no. The rejection. Nobody could reject a shot like Matambo. And IWM rejected it to 200 there. I digress. I just wanted to show, the reason why the Nasdaq was up today was because the big three, the largest three companies, on the indexes, Apple, Microsoft, and NVIDIA, and they were all up just slightly, quarter percent, not a big deal. Apple doesn't look good here at all. Microsoft making new highs. This does look very good. It consolidated in a base for a long, long, long time. And now it's breaking out to new highs. So it's up almost 2% this week. Not a bad week for Microsoft. So this is a type of, big, $3.5 trillion market cap that's going to move, the S&P because it's market cap weighted. And the other one was NVIDIA. Very strange action in NVIDIA. 145 at close at. It has bumped up against 145 like three or four times. It keeps doing it here on Monday. 145 and rejected, closed at 142. Tuesday, 149.29. Wednesday, 144, well, essentially 145, closed at 142. And today, the high was 145 and it closed right at the high. So that maybe bodes well for tomorrow. And you can see it's just riding its five to higher prices. This thing's surfing its five. So NVIDIA is showing strength. I would love to see it above, 140. What is this? 148.97 and then eventually 153.13. But NVIDIA is looking good. And yeah, I was trying to trade this one, with weekly options. It was just too hard. The It was just, yeah, back and forth and back and forth, so it was just no real momentum, but it did close at the high, which is nice. All right. I'm gonna move on. I gotta go. I guess I'll show you the rest of the lag seven. Tesla just a mess. It's really hard. It's running on news, right? It ran up, after the election, and then it got it boycotted essentially, and it sold off. Then it rallied, and he got into a feud with the president, and it sold off. And now they kiss and made up, and it rallied, and I just can't deal with that drama, so I just avoid that stock. Another one is Meta Platforms. They have drama too. They got their own type of drama. This one's doing a lot better though. Broke out of that cup with handle. I think the FTC is going to, I don't know. Just my hunch, they're going to force these guys to break up Instagram, I believe, and maybe WhatsApp. But anyway, Google, same thing. FTC could force them to break up Chrome or YouTube. So there's a lot of uncertainty around those two stocks. And then Amazon, I like Amazon. It's got this cup with handle. I keep putting it on my ready list, but just think, it's like Dutch Bros. It's going to move when it wants to move and not when we want it to move. Very similar chart patterns here. These cup with handles, and it's just Dutch Bros not gonna move. Every day I watch, I said maybe it's gonna break out today, but no, it's gonna do it. When you turn your head and look away, that's when it'll move. So anyway, that's it for the lag seven and the indexes. I want to get to some of the stocks that I had on my ready list and some of the leading stocks in the market. You cannot overlook gold today. The gold commodity itself was only up like a 0.5%, but Anglo Gold Ashanti, this one was up 6.5%. Nice breakout here out of that little wedge pattern. It almost made it back to its 21 here yesterday. 44.44, and it was 44.90. Close enough in spirit. And then, rallied up today to 48.82 where it closed. Did it make it to 49? Yeah, 49.15. So nice day for the gold stocks. AEM, nice cup with handle pattern here. I was debating upon which one I should put on because I don't want to put a bunch of gold stocks on. This one was fine as well. But I put on AU. But anyway, if you bought it, congrats. If not, there's other stocks. There's a lot going on in the market, and so yeah, I'm just trying to cover as much as I can. Uh, the gold stocks, I just got to lead off with these because these are showing strength today. And then the silver stocks. This is Mag Silver, Canadian company. Just surfing the five here. Super strong stock. It's not on the list because it's an RS rating of 95, which is a kind of a lagging rating. I think it takes 6 months of data. So, recently, yeah, it's riding the five, but overall, it had some trouble back here, and that's why the rating's only 95 on that one. PAAS, this one's got this nice consolidation pattern, gapped up. Now it's just hovering, loitering around its five here in that old buy point, 28.60. So definitely one to watch if you're into the commodities and want to. These are a little more defensive by in nature, but some people like to have them in their portfolios because they can have all these high beta stocks. This is beta is 0.82, so below the average stock. Anyway, slow stocks are fine. All right. Last night we got a bomber report from Oracle, and this thing gapped up and closed up 13.3% with 483% above average daily volume. So nice move for Oracle. It was above 200 earlier, yeah, and then maybe how did that close here on the 5-minute chart? Yeah, it really was ramping hard. Maybe some short sellers saying, I got to get out of here. And then, a little bit of blip into the close, but that's a very nice day for Oracle. Let's take a look at the weekly chart there. It made that bottom, and then we got liberated, and this thing's been straight up from the lows. You could see that the blue dot, which indicates, RS strength. And that's more recent strength and not the lagging in data lagging indicator. Anyway, Oracle, a very strong move. And I thought Oracle, with that report, it would lift, all boats here in the software names. But man, Palantir was not playing today. This is another vehicle I was looking to trade, but it just would not give you anything. And you can see today's daily range was like, what, 37 to 34. I mean, yeah, $2.50. I mean, nothing. And if you looked at it on like a 5-minute chart, very difficult to trade here. It started off, sold and then rallied up. This was a little blip here. Oh, this is yesterday. Sorry about that. This is today. Uh, yeah, 137.10, and then it came down. I don't know, 135, but yeah, 137, 135 is just difficult to trade. There's no real momentum in either direction, either puts or calls. Very difficult to trade in a very narrow range. I think that bodes well for the stock, just allowing that 5 EMA to catch up. And yeah, Palantir looks fine to me. What other names are? Oh, Shopify is another one that I like. And just, quiet day today. Not nothing burger here. Pulled back to its 5. It was down 4%, but it had a big move yesterday, right? 3.5%, gave it all back today. Filled that gap there at 110.61. Yeah, it closed below it. So I don't know. Once again, we're looks like Amazon and Dutch Bros. They're gonna break out when they want to and not when we want them to. Or, they might not break out at all. You never know, but that one does look pretty good. Maybe I'll put it on next week. All right, another one is Robinhood. This one's just had a huge run, and it's just digesting its gains here. Some people say, oh, it's tired, it looks tired, which is true. All runners, all sprinters need rest. And this one, maybe just resting here, between 72, 75. There's nothing wrong with that. It did close a tick above its 5. So to me, Robinhood looks fine. You want to call it tired, sure. It's made a big move, but yeah, I don't think it's done. It just depends on your time horizon. Roblox, man, this thing just surfing its 5, and this is why it's on the relative strength list. That thing is just a monster. What else do we have here? Oh, CoreWeave. I think some of the recent IPOs are taking some of this, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. They're taking some of the buyers away from CoreWeave. Obviously, it's had this move, from, I don't know, broke out around that 60 area up to 166. Now it's pulled back today to 142 is the low, but just kind of sitting right there at its 5. You can see it closed, right at its 5, 149.15, just a tick below it. We'll see what happens tomorrow. It's got to bounce here one of these days. The pattern here since the breakout, 1 day pullback, 2 day pullback, 1 day pullback, and now it's had 3 days of resting and pulling back to the 5. This thing's got to bounce for me pretty soon, or I'm going to cut it loose, or I'll trim some, because you got to perform in a market like this. You got to have performers because it's an opportunity cost. If you're having your stock just going down 3 days in a row, and you could be, buying some other stocks that I'm going to be showing you here in a minute. You could buy a gold stock. You don't have to sit there and, just wait for this thing to move. NBIS, Nebius Group. This one's pulled back 3 days in a row too, just like CoreWeave. It's 1.5% above its 5, though. It's a little bit stronger than CoreWeave. Out of those two, yeah, that one looks a lot better. All right, I'm going to move on. Enough with the software. And, I'm just going to leading stocks here and stocks that, groups that have performed well today. GEV, the Energy Utility Group, performed pretty well. This one pulled back to its 21 earlier in the week on Tuesday and bounced. It found support, bounced a little bit on Wednesday, nearly 4%, and then tacked on another percent today. So GEV looks fine. VST, another name in this utility group. Nice little bull wedge pattern there. It pulled back to its 21, found support there at the 160. Bounced a little bit, up to 169 yesterday, and today 173. So nice bounce from 160 to 173 for Vistra. CEG, this one pulled back to its 21 as well, and it's kind of squatting here. This stuff bugs me when they squat. They got to find support and bounce, which it did here, but now it's back at its 21. So yeah, be careful there. It needs to show some strength, right? And this is telling they had the deal yesterday and then popped quite a bit yesterday. So you'd think it would give some back. Yeah, it was up 7.75%, and it didn't give anything back today. So yeah, pretty impressive. The nuclear group, we got the nuclear, we got the quants, we got the aerospace, and OKLO had a big day yesterday. A lot of shorts covered. It was up nearly 30%. They had an offering of 400 million. Very interesting day today. I was watching OKLO. It started off low as expected, the news from the secondary, but buying, buying, buying all day. And then it really rallied up to what, $71. So that's a hell of a move from 62 to 71 and then sold off into the close. It's going to take a couple days to absorb. That's a pretty large offering for that company. SMR. New scale made a new high today, then pulled back. That one looks fine. And the one that's on our relative strength list is LEU. It's an inside day today, a quiet day, but it's way above its 7.5% above its 5 EMA yesterday. So it's just allowing that 5 to catch up. Maybe it'll pull back tomorrow and then bounce next week. We'll see. But that one's super strong as well. And you can see the group is top, two out of 197. Not bad. All right. I'm going to move on. We did the gold, we did the software, we did the energy, and I've got to get to these fintech names. SEZL was upgraded today at Oppenheimer with the 168 price target. Earlier in the week, it gave you a chance to get in. It traded down to 106 on news that it was taking Shopify to court, some lawsuit about buy now, pay later, something. So it sold off on that news, man. So you could have got it at like 106, and that's the first visit to the 21 in a long, long time. Today just rallied hard on that upgrade. 141.83 was the high today, and after hours still very strong stock. So if you got in, congrats. That looks like a good hold to me. And the other one is Dave in this group. Dave making new highs today. It didn't have the sell-off. It's just surfing its 5 here like Kelly Slater. It didn't have the lawsuit or the news, but man, these are up after hours. I'm not sure why. I'll look into that tonight. All right, I'm going to move on. Somebody asked me to look at a couple of stocks here, so I'm going to do that right now. Cadence Design, this thing, I believe it came down maybe with earnings, or it's been in the news a lot because of the deal with China. They do software design, but for semiconductors, so they design the circuits. Yeah, for the semiconductors, had that rough day, but still consolidating within a base, supported at its moving averages. This one looks fine to me after that pullback. These pullbacks are healthy because it gets all the weak hands out and the people, who, don't know if they want to be in or not, so they just get out. And the real buyers, the strong hands start accumulating and this thing's powering higher. So that one looks pretty good to me. On the weekly and the daily, it's pretty how do you say, it's a little choppy, right? But yeah, it looks pretty good overall. And Cisco looks really good to me. I hadn't looked at it in a while. This is one of my all-time, in my heart of hearts, IBM, HP, Cisco. These are stocks that I just have done well for me over the years. So I like Cisco Systems. My wife worked there for about 10 years, and John Chambers is just a gem of a guy. He's not there any longer. He's retired, but Chuck Robbins doing a good job. They bought Splunk, which was a good acquisition for them, and you can see a cup with handle pattern here. Supported the 21 here, pulled back yesterday, didn't get to the 21 at 63.87. The 21 was 63.48, but I would say that got there in spirit, right? Maybe it was a 20-day SMA, close enough, and then popped today. So Cisco looks really good here. I would love to see it break out, and I still have a bunch of friends who work there, and they say they're going to retire when it hits 80. Which is just a running joke. Yeah, they're going to retire whenever the hell they want. All right, a couple of others in the group that, I don't know. I just wanted to cover some other hardware. And this is Arista Networks. This one had a big stock split. I forget, was it 10 for 1 or something like that. But anyway, it had to absorb all those shares. So what it does is it increases the float here. So yeah, so it's supply and demand, and there's just too much supply, so it needs a lot of demand to move this stock. Eventually, it'll wear off, and absorb all that new supply, but it's going to take some time. And then the other one that I wanted to look at was CRDO. This is one that is on a relative strength list. Gapped up with earnings, pull back to the five. It did undercut the gap day low, but still, supported by the five, looks good to me. Up nearly 4% today. Yeah, I would think about entering that one. What was the high was 77.09. Yeah, this one looks pretty good to me. There you are on the weekly, that V-shaped three, that looks like the Nasdaq right there. So okay, I'm going to move on to another one of my favorite groups, the cybersecurity group, CrowdStrike. It was rallying early today, but kind of sold off. There you go. Nice little whoop-de-doop, and then had this nice little run here, then sold off into the close. High volume close there, a little pick me up at the end. But Zscaler, another one, sold off, most of the afternoon and then popped into the close. Not bad for Zscaler. Still struggling with that 300 level. I think it's going to, form a little ledge there for a little more time before 300 is going to be in the rear view mirror. I think that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Rubric, this one needs the base. Another stock that I like a lot. Below it's 21 here. Not the end of the world for this stock. It's had a hell of a run. 47 to 103, I believe. Yeah, so let it base here. And I don't know what kind of base it's going to form. We're going to find out, but this is going to take weeks and weeks. I don't, I wouldn't be looking to get in this thing tomorrow just because it had, it's below the 21. It just needs time. That's all. All right, that's it for this. Oh, no, it's not. Palo Alto Networks. This is one that I have on my list. Obviously, cup with handle, having trouble at the 200 level, kind of like NVIDIA at 145. Just keeps bumping up against it and can't get through like Zscaler at 300. So it'll get through one of these days. I'm going to move on to an area that I haven't covered in a while. One of my favorite areas is the drug stocks, but it's just, a real tough gig. The drug, the drug names have just been absolutely murdered. If I go to the XBI, you can see this, and then over the past year, I mean, this thing's down 10%, while, the NASDAQ is probably up, I don't know what, 25%? Oh, it's only up 11% in the last year. Okay. But still, a severe serial underperformer. It's down 10% while the indexes are up 11%. Yeah, that's not good for the biotech. And anyway, okay, so Novo Nordisk to me, I don't say this very often, but this, is just, I think it's bottomed. I think it's a buy. I think it's going to form a stage two advanced phase. This is just going through its, if you will, bear with me. NVO had the stage one, base phase, then it had its advanced phase, and it had a hell of an advance phase, and then it had this little topping phase, then it had a stage four decline, and now I think it's just getting out of this stage one, and it's going to go higher. Yeah, I got this in a retirement account. It's up 8% this week. I just think it's bottom. I think it's a pretty cheap stock for, relatively speaking. It's got 20% growth here, and I know that Lilly has better weight loss compounds, but they're still going to get their lion's share of the market. Wegovy is ta taking share. I mean, got a big piece of that weight loss pie. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't say it very often, but I think that thing's just bottom, and I think it's going higher back, above the 200 and above $100, and maybe even, back above that 112.52, which is back here, back in the day, back in December. So anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. A couple other biotech drug stocks that are, they have earnings, they have sales, and then doing really well, which is pretty rare for this group. This is Verona Pharma, consolidated in a base, pulled back to the 50, looked like a fake breakout, pull back, shaking out people. And this is what they do, man. This is what confounds people. It's like, oh, wow, I owned it. It was a 74 and then it was a 60. Screw that. I hate this stock. And now, yippee. So people sell it. The weak hands get out. And strong hands accumulate in the institutions. So you want to be with the institutions. You want to follow what the institutions are doing. So that one looks pretty good. RPRX, I got to be honest, I don't even know what these guys do. Wow, but they earn money here. Uh, this is royalties and investment signs. Okay, I got you. This is consolidated in a base, just breaking out today like 4%. That looks pretty good. Let's see the weekly here. Yeah, big consolidation here, run up. That's a 11-week consolidation. Now blasting out. That looks pretty good. Royalty Pharma. So they don't produce, they don't, do R&D, produce drugs. It's a different type of drug stock. No wonder why it's doing well. INSM had a phase 3 trial, I believe, earlier in the week. FDA approval. I'm getting mixed up here. I think was it for breast cancer? No, that was another drug. This might be dermatology. Help me out here. Lung. Oh well. I posted it at my site and I forgot what it was, but you can see on the weekly here up 32%, nice breakout, and it's got the blue dot. And so, yeah, but this is another one, losing money. They've got a long way to go to from approval to launching the drug to taking market share to having earnings it's growth. So yeah, on a long road, but it's heading in the right direction. Anyway, that's it for the drug stocks. I got to go to the construction names. Tudor Perini, this one's on our list. You can see why, obviously, just surfing the five. That's a building construction stock. Sterling is another one that's on our list here, and you can see why. It's got the 96 RS rating, just surfing its five. Would it have an inside day today? So we'll be watching for that one tomorrow. Another one in the construction group is Quanta. This one's a back above its five today. That one looks good. Who else do we have here in this group? Oh, I'm going to throw this one in there. It's a HVAC company, but this is a leader in that group, and it's on our relative strength list. Like I said, there's only what 28 items now. So it's one of 28 and showing strength. So that's why I wanted to throw it in there with the rest of them. What are we looking at here now? Oh, some of the medical stocks. I haven't been talking enough about these two. TEM, this is, famous for the Nancy Pelosi, shenanigans here where went up to 91.45. Now it's forming this nice little base here with this little wedge pattern as it pulled back to the 50 and now showing strength here. But, it's got to prove itself above $72. I would be a little more interested. Then TMDX. TMDX to me, this is just a hold. It's doing nothing wrong. Surfing the five. If you don't own it, you want to own it. You want to wait for a day like this, or a couple of days. It's sold off 3 days in a row. Don't chase it. What's it, 1.9% above its five, but just surfing the five to higher prices. And that reminds me of because you look at the gap higher on the earnings, and this is why I pay attention to earnings gap. And the high was 120. Then, the low was at 108. Let's just call it, you bought it at 115. The next day, just kind of quiet, and it just starts cruising higher. And so your 115 turns into 143. Or even if you bought it at the high at 120, you're 23 bucks up to the good, so not bad. And it reminds me of Elf. Elf has been on a heater this week. I've been talking about this a lot. I believe I still have it on my ready list. I don't have that list in front of me, but I should because it had this gap day, and then it didn't undercut the gap day low of 108.58. Just kind of mark time, waiting for that five to catch up. And when the five caught up earlier this week here. Let me get a little better picture here. The five was 115.13. It pulled back to 115.66. That was enough. The following day, which was what, Tuesday? Yeah, pulled back to the five, 116.07. Just, and then popped yesterday, and it's just kind of leaving that gap day in the dust now. I think we got up to 130 today. Yeah, 129.77. So Alpha looks good. If you just take a look at the weekly chart, this is kind of another classic that I just showed you earlier with NVO where it had the base stage, the advanced stage. You got stage 3, which, can't advance anymore. Stage 4 decline, and now it had this stage 1 base again, and now it's emerged from the stage one base and in a stage two advance. I think this one's going much higher. I'm not saying it's going to go back to 220, its old high, but 140, 150, 160, definitely doable for ELF. It had this short stroke pattern. If I go back to the weekly, short stroke is when it goes up, 10% or more and gives back less than 1%. This one went up 30%, 34%, didn't give back a damn thing, just had a quiet inside week. It actually went up 4.5%, and then this week's blasted up nearly 10%. So to me, Alpha looks good, and you're thinking, wow, I want to buy Alpha, I want to own Alpha. How do I do that? Just wait till it comes back to that five. And I know the five's going up every day. It started the week there at 115, and now it's climbed up to 118, 122 today. So it's gone up $7 just this week. Wait for it to come back one day, if you want to get in. If you're in and just holding, it's an easy hold. If you want to buy, for me, I wouldn't chase it. It did finish, near the highs of the session there, 81%. Not bad. Just wait for it to come back to that five. And I know it's going to be a higher five, but still, don't chase because you're going to buy and it's going to pull back one day, and that's the day that you should buy, and you're going to be selling when you should be buying. So I've been there and done that. Just be patient, show some discipline, and kind of wait. Anyway, that was my medical. Those are my medical stocks. By the way, TMDX, same thing. If you want to buy it, just wait till it pulls back to the five. All right. TTMI, I believe this is one that's on our relative strength. Oh, yeah. Look at that breakout. Cup with handle breakout. And this is why we pay attention to these breakouts here. 9% move and just surfing the five. That's a thing of beauty. Contract manufacturer circuit board. CLS is another one. Yeah, just surfing the five, another one of these strong names, right? And I got to go to the defense group because they're, making new highs here. This is CW, Curtis Wright, making a new high. This is Leonardo da Vinci, making new highs today. They look good. GE was held back because of the plane crash in India, where the Boeing plane, crashed, unfortunately. And it was powered by GE engines, and that's why this one sold off a little bit today. But the defense names still look pretty darn good to me. And I always have to mention Helmet. This one pulled back, so it's one of those leaders that was on, our list, and then as soon as it slices, the moving averages, it comes off the list because they have to maintain that strength. But a pullback to the 21 is not the end of the world. So yesterday. The low was 165 and it closed $6 above that today. So that's why you got to mind these moving averages. They provide opportunities if you're watching them closely. And I've got to go to this other group here, the space group. This is a telecom. I'm just throwing this one in because I don't know where to put it. Tower operator, ASTS, very, very nice move here, and it's up after hours. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about these flying machines, right? And the stocks are flying, but then they pull back like this. So that's pretty hard to take an 8% move to the downside, but they are trending higher. This is Archer Aviation. You can see a pretty wild stock here. And so if you can't handle that type of, the daily ranges, you have to know yourself. Some people just do not like that volatility. And the older I get, the less I like it. Yeah, I'm holding CoreWeave as I say it. Rocket Lab, pull back to its 21. So watch that one tomorrow. Archer, Joby, Rocket Lab. Okay. Okay. That's enough of that stuff. All right. That's it for me. Thank you for watching. At mcstockcharts.com, we never give up, except for in honor of the great Steve Jobs. I have one more thing. We stay hungry, we stay humble, we stay foolish. Not quite in that order. But in honor of Steve Jobs, I have to look at the earnings reports tonight from Adobe. Like I said last night, I thought the Oracle earnings report would really propel the software names, and it really didn't. Adobe, they had a better report than usual for them, but it's flat after hours. I think they raised guidance, so I would expect that maybe to move off this little wedge pattern here. No, not a wedge. That's like a ledge, not a wedge. It's a ledge. It's going sideways, not down. But yeah, decent report from Adobe, better than usual. And then RH, Jim Morrison stock been down so damn long. that it's got to go up, right? It's up 20% after hours, 210. So still well below the 200. This thing has sold off miserably, and I suspect you're going to see, yeah, okay, yeah, nice little ski slope there where you get the little ski jump. Yippee. All right, and the last couple things I want to mention is that there's quite a few IPOs coming to market, which I like. You got to be careful though. Don't be chasing this stuff. Voyager, this is another one in that group with Archer Aviation, the flying machines. It's taking a voyage, all right. You don't want to take that voyage with it down 12%. So you just got to let these IPOs kind of settle. And then today, CHYM went public and had a nice 37% move, which is kind of nice. And then Circle last week came public and, it was real, had a real big move up here to 120. It went up to 130 actually, right? 130, 138.57, and then pulled back. Kind of a cryptocurrency type of IPO, but there's more IPOs coming to market, and that's a really good thing for the stock market. It shows that institutions and companies have confidence in the market and they're willing to come to market. So this is really healthy. Some of the IPO money does kind of slosh around a little bit, and so it might pull from some of the more recent IPOs like a CoreWeave, the getting out of CoreWeave and buying some of these other newer IPOs. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up.